Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. I see that we got buildings from all over the city and even I think some people from Vancouver. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Sayan and I'm the coordinator for the Zero Waste High Rise project. So in case this is your first time joining us, Toronto Environmental Alliance, known as T, is a local environmental nonprofit working for a greener city for all since 1988. We work on a range of issues from waste reduction, air pollution, climate change, and advocate for policies and programs that create environmental solutions. And one of the main ways that T inspires governments and businesses to take up these solutions is to prove what's possible through community projects like this one. Over the last 2.5 years, as part of the Zero Waste High Rise project, we worked closely with over 15 buildings all across the city and studied how they've gone about reducing waste. Now, we're sharing what we've learned as part of an online program to guide more buildings in replicating the successes that we've seen. The online program consists of a step-by-step pathway of activities, tools, success stories, and learning events like this one to guide you in taking action in your building. If you just recently joined the project and want to know more about how this whole pathway works, be sure to check out a recording of the info session, and we put a link in the chat. The project is funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, which is an agency of the Government of Ontario, and is a partnership with the University of Toronto. Researchers there help us document the changes that we see in buildings and evaluate improvements. And we have funding from SSHRC, the Social Sciences and Humanity Research Council of Canada, for this research aspect of our work. All right, so today is our first peer learning session that we're hosting as part of the online program. And the goal of these sessions is for you to hear directly from your peers, residents and staff at leading zero waste buildings, and learn how they've achieved waste reduction. Each session will look at key tactics that high-rise buildings have taken to reduce waste and spotlight a specific building and their leaders that are exemplary at using that tactic. Today, our focus is organizing resident green teams. We chose this topic for this first session because we've seen how green teams are a foundation for success in all the leading buildings that we work with. So we want to support you in starting one as a first step, or if you already have one, be really energized about new ideas that your team could take on. Let's quickly see how many of you in this session already have a green team in your building. I'll launch a poll. So if you can just let us know what your situation is with regards to green teams and click submit. Cool. Looks like it's a really good mix. About 40% of you have a green team, so we're really hoping that this session gives you some new ideas of what you can do together. And then quite a few of you don't have one yet and are interested in learning more and starting one. So today, I'm going to first do a quick run through of some general principles T has observed about, why green teams are important and how they operate. Then I'm going to review some of the accomplishments of our Spotlight building, a condo named Pavilion del Sol, whose green team has been a driving force for their waste reduction. And then we're going to meet Sally, who is the chair of the green team there, and hear a bit about her experience. And in the end, we'll have time for you to ask questions to both Sally and I. So, green teams are generally a volunteer group of residents and sometimes staff that work together to reduce the environmental impact of a building. We've seen that they're a key building block for waste reduction. And the reasons for this are, when you're just one person, it can be easy to feel like your ideas don't have weight, which can discourage you from even getting started. But when you take the time to just organize a team, even if it's just a group of one or two other people, you feel a lot more confident taking your ideas to decision makers. And now you represent a group that represents the environmental values in your building. And that gives credibility to your efforts. And so that's going to really help you guys get approval for your ideas. And another way that green teams slowly build credibility is just having a name to the team, calling it a green team, green committee, a zero waste team. It gives your group a brand essentially. And so as your team does more and more activities, you develop credibility, you develop a reputation, you develop influence. Working as a team also helps with getting things done because you can delegate tasks based on skills and interests, which makes the work go easier. Green teams also make doing the work funner. It's a great way to meet other neighbors that care and bond over shared values. The best green teams that I've seen make a point of making their get-togethers a social activity. Lots of times they have meetings not just to move an idea forward, but to reconnect and have a social catch-up. This enables them to sustain their work for the long haul because they enjoy working together. Lastly, a major benefit is that green team activities make the existence of shared environmental values something that is visible in your building, which creates accountability and sets cultural norms. The lack of visibility of community values is one of the barriers in high-rise buildings. On a residential street, you can see that every house puts out a green bin and a recycling bin every week, so it's clear that neighbors care about reducing waste. In a high-rise building, you don't get to see people's good behavior. If anything, we only notice the things that are wrong, the things that end up in the bin that don't belong there, and feel discouraged by this. So we don't really register all the people in the building who did take the effort to sort waste properly. So when you see a green team newsletter or announcement or event, just knowing that a green team exists sends a very strong signal to residents that people in this community do care about green behavior, and it motivates you to put in the effort to align your behavior with these shared environmental values. So having a green team is clearly a huge asset, but how do you go about starting one? Well, it's really as simple as voicing that you want to. If you're a manager, you can put up notices that you're recruiting resident volunteers to start a green team. And if you're a resident, same thing. Let your building manager know that you want to volunteer your time to start a green team and that your goal is to help the building reduce its environmental impact. By framing yourself as a service to the management, you'll be surprised by how supportive they'll be. Building management staff often don't have the time to look into what green initiatives are possible. So even if they really care about the topic personally, they might not get around to doing that. So resident volunteers are seen as a huge resource. Once you know that your building management is behind you, use the communication channels in your building, like the bulletin board, Facebook groups. You could even ask to make a small statement at a general meeting to let your neighbors know that you want to start a green team that tackles waste and environmental issues in your building. Sometimes the board or manager might even know that other people that might be interested that you just haven't met yet. So just putting it out there that you're interested will usually surface these connections. And I want to really emphasize that it's okay to start small. Some teams start off and stay as just 2 people for many years, and that's enough. Some of the longest lasting and most active green teams I've seen are just a team of 2-3 people, and that's really enough to have a presence in your community. Also, the most successful green teams I work with also make it a priority to invite building staff, like the superintendent, to be a part of the team. These staff might not be able to attend meetings, but just inviting them and keeping them updated shows them that you respect their expertise and their role in the building. And by running your ideas by staff and including their input in advance will ensure that you get the support from decision makers, like management or the board at the end. Because usually, the board or managers, their main concern is how is this going to impact staff time? Is this going to add more work? So if you've already done that work to check in with staff and incorporate their input, it leads to much quicker approvals for your ideas. All right, so the green team at our Spotlight building today is exemplary at doing this. I'm going to do a quick scan of the type of initiatives they've led. So their building is a condo in North York called Pavilion del Sol, which was built in 1988. It has 19 stories and 140 units. And Pavilion del Sol joined the Zero Waste High Rise project in 2018, back during our pilot phase of the project. They're one of 15 buildings that we work closely with. And they were able to increase their diversion rate by 10% in just 1 year, which is really impressive. At the start of the project, Pavilion del Sol had a diversion rate of 44%. And then when we checked in with them last summer, their diversion rate had improved to 54%, which means majority of the waste from their building is now either recycled or composted. The building achieved these results because of consistent efforts by the green team to educate and engage residents on proper sorting, which has resulted in continual improvements. And they implemented several initiatives that make it very visible that residents in this community care about the environment and reducing waste. Everywhere you go in the building, you'll see colorful posters that the green team refresh routinely about proper waste sorting. For example, on the left here, you'll see a picture of a poster they've put up in every single shoot room, which clearly indicates where every different stream of waste should be taken in the building. They also maintain a bulletin board dedicated to waste sorting tips and put notices on other bulletin boards around the building as well. They also write newsletter updates from the green team and host lobby displays to educate residents on specific problem materials. Other initiatives that are really cool include working with their management to add a letter from the green team in the welcome package that's given to new residents. The letter invites new residents to join a building tour hosted by the green team. During these tours, the green team shows new residents the facilities available, starting with the recycling room. And as they move through the building, they continually highlight the building's dedication to zero waste. New residents are really keen to join these tours. They're very popular because it's a chance for them to meet neighbors in the community while getting educated on the community's values and how things work. And lastly, one of my favorite initiatives of this green team is their Reusable Shelf, where residents can leave household goods that they don't want without having to put them in the garbage and send them to landfill. The shelf also features bins to collect deposit return bottles, and the proceeds from this deposit return bottle collection funds a yearly summer barbecue. So that's just a little snapshot of different things that this community is doing. But without further ado, let's bring up Sally, and we're gonna have a discussion with her.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Sally.
Hi.
All right, so thanks so much for joining us, Sally. Really appreciate you taking the time. To get started, can you tell us how your green team got started and how long it's been active?
My friend lived in a condo building, and they had a Green Ambassadors team, and she often talked about it and about how much money they had saved the building in terms of diverting waste from landfill to recycling. And so I had just moved to this building. That was 5 years ago. And at a board meeting, I put up my hand and said, is anybody interested in forming a green team? And at the time, only one other woman who's still on the team, a very valuable member, put up her hand. And we together started it. And we just put out, that we were interested in doing this, and would anybody like to join us?
Cool. So it's just started with 2 people, and what has been, and you've been active for 5 years. What's been your experience growing the team gradually over those 5 years?
Well, a few people, people join, or there are other people we know that we can call upon. We have 6 regular members of the team, and we meet regularly every couple of months, I would say, and plan activities together. But there are other people within the building that we know we can count on if we need extra hands.
And how did you identify these people? Like, what's been like the journey in terms of finding these people and letting them know that you need help?
Well, we put it in the newsletters. We put notices on the bulletin board, and just approaching people. One of the ladies who joined said, well, her friend down the hall might be interested, and so word of mouth and bulletins, newsletters, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Cool. And so in your building, Sally, what would you say is the role of your green team? What's like the mandate that you guys take on?
Well, we've had 3 areas. We provide leadership, I would say, to the building, and education. Mainly, we started out in 3 specific areas: waste management. We wanted to divert from the landfill, and energy consumption. And the 3rd area we also deal in is safety and security of residents. And so we've continued in the waste management. The energy area, they felt that was so important, and so many people wanted to work in that area who had specific knowledge, that sort of spun off to another committee. But we still do safety things. Like we've had the police in to talk to residents about personal safety. We've had the fire department in to talk about in case of, what to do in case of fire and how to prevent fires and that sort of thing. But our main focus is the waste diversion.
Cool. So it sounds like, you have this kind of overarching umbrella goal of looking for environmental solutions that the building could look at, and your team provides this resource to look at these options, propose these new options, and over time, as different members have been, more interested in specific aspects, that's even branched off into whole new committees like this energy committee that you now have.
Right.
Cool. One of the questions I often get is, people in buildings that are really interested in starting a green team, but they feel like, their board or their manager might not be so supportive and might dismiss them. But, with the green teams that I work with, I've seen that you guys have done a great job really building trust. What's been your approach to kind of framing yourself and presenting yourself, building that reputation for your team as a source of leadership and a resource for the board and management? How did you build that type of reputation?
Well, I guess communication is key. And our superintendent, we're very fortunate. He really cares about the environment and wanting to do the right thing. What most people I find they're concerned about is additional work. But if you can come up with solutions where it isn't additional work for them, and they know they're doing the right thing, and they know they're saving the building money by diverting from the cost of the waste to recycling, then they will do that. Now, we always keep our the manager of the building in the loop, and also the president of the condominium board and the board. We've gone sometimes to speak to the board if it's something that we're really interested in and want to ask for. Most of the time we do it through emails. After our meeting, we suggest, if think of a few things we'd like to change, and we reach out to them. Sometimes I visit the manager and talk about it, or we send the president of the board and the manager an email. We always make sure we've got the superintendent on board with us, because he's a key player in the building. I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, no, so what I was hearing there is that, you guys really make it a priority to keep everyone in the loop so that no one feels like, things are just kind of running off course in a direction that, might be off track, that, that they don't know where it's going. Every meeting, you give an update to different stakeholders, including the superintendent and the managers and the board, so they all feel like they're in the loop and
right. And once you start doing things within a building, like posting things and having displays, and what we've done that's been very popular are sorting activities. And the board even provides a few $5 TIM cards for this. When people sort correctly, and we give lots of leeway with that, because the whole idea is to educate, right? To learn how to sort properly. Then they get their name in this draw for a TIM card. But once the residents start taking part in these activities and learning things, and they get a feeling that they're doing a good job, that helps too, because then management sees this, and that means that the residents are on board already with it.
Mm-hmm. In your building, Sally, was the board and management already aware of the opportunity of how reducing waste could save the building money? Or was that something that your team slowly presented to them as an opportunity?
Well, no, because they were well aware of the costs of waste removal. And when we were able to bring those costs down, that people notice.
Yeah, they're probably more aware than most people of how expensive waste costs. So
right, and you can just ask the manager for that information if you want to be able to know how much your building pays for waste removal. Often, well, I don't know why any manager wouldn't want to share that, because this is in the interest of bringing those costs down. And when you're in a condominium, you pay that in your maintenance fees. And I think cost has been one of our main selling features too. Not only do people feel better about their ability to sort and knowing that they're doing the right thing, but knowing that they can have an effect on their maintenance fees. And it isn't just bringing the cost down, because as we know, costs go up every year. Electricity costs go up every year, and so do waste costs. But what you're doing is you're preventing them from going up as much as they would have done had you
Right.
not taken on these practices.
Exactly. Do you have any tips, Sally, for like how to organize a green team in terms of, I'm curious, how does your team communicate and organize in terms of how often you guys meet and how you delegate tasks?
Right. Well, we mostly do chat through email to organize our meetings
Okay.
back and forth. And then we have a meeting now. And during COVID, we've met out in the garden a couple of times because we
Cool.
can't meet inside. So we just kind of informally meet in the garden. But we have the meetings probably about every 2 months. We don't regularly schedule them, but what we do is at the end of each meeting, we make a point of booking another meeting, because if you don't do that, time gets away from you and you don't get to that next meeting. So we have one member of the committee, and she's really good. She'll remind us at the end, oh, you have to book another meeting. So there's that. Often we're sending things back and forth. If we're making a letter to the residents or something, we send it back and forth within us to proofread for each other and that sort of thing.
One of the things that really stood out for me, back when I first met you and was learning about your approach to green teams, is how you really try to think about what are the interests of different members and organize tasks in a way that make sure that they really feel like they're contributing something valuable. It might be small, but it's something that's enjoyable and they feel like it's valuable.
Right, exactly. I always try to ask people what would they like to do, or and also each member of the group can generate an idea. It doesn't all come from one place. So, if it's their idea, then we support that idea if we think it's a good one, and we ask what we can do to help. And I think we all do that within the team. We help each other support any ideas that come along. And sometimes people do more work than other people, and that's just the way it is. But for the next task, maybe somebody else steps up. And I find also each person within the group has their own strengths. So some people might be good at writing emails or creating newsletters or flyers, or decorating the bulletin board, or chatting with members of the public, so to speak, when we have a lobby display. Everybody brings their own strength.
Yeah. Speaking of, everyone contributing to ideas, where did the idea of a sharing shelf or a reuse it shelf, as your building calls it, come from?
Well, we noticed, and our superintendent also noticed, there were a lot of reusable items put in recycling. Toys, clothing, shoes, and I'm sure people think that, when this gets to the recycling depot, somebody's going to see this great thing and pick it out. But we all know that isn't what happens. What happens when it goes to the recycling depot is they will throw that stuff out in the garbage because it can't go through on the conveyor. Also, clothing and shoes can really gum up the machinery. So we wanted to kind of stop that. And we all know that we have things that we have to, we want to get rid of that are still good, reusable things. So we started this shelf. It's you've shown a picture of it, and it's been highly popular. And there are wonderful things that people put down there because they know that they're going to go to other residents. And then also when we go, each one of us goes down, we see something we might be able to use and pick it up as well.
I'm just going to bring up the photos of that shelf again. Yeah. So you guys notice reusables in the garbage and the recycling bin. Got that feedback also from the superintendent. I was noticing that as well. and then you, I think at a green team meeting, came up with this idea. What was the next step for you in terms of translating that idea into this actual shelf? Like, did you have any resistance from, the management or the board, or how did you get that approval?
Right. So what we knew that the superintendent would like the idea. We just knew that he'd be concerned about extra work, because this is in where our recycling and our garbage, we're fortunate enough to have a room where all our things are kept. People take their organics down to that room as well. But we knew that he wouldn't like the thought of it being extra work. So we thought we better get something on wheels, and this shelf does have wheels. They lock. You can just lock it with your foot, and then you can unlock it, and he can move it because he keeps that room very clean, and he has to wash the floors, etc. So we wanted to make sure that it'd be no work for him. And then we went to the manager and said, this is our idea. We think the residents would like it. It'll stop a lot of things going in recycling, because contamination is a big problem in recycling, as you know, and the city can come in and inspect your recycling. And if they find contamination in there, that bin then goes for garbage and you pay for it. So then we got the shelf, set it up, and you can see on the bottom we have the return for the bottles, which we take back, or the superintendent will take them back sometimes to the beer store, and we make about $300 on that per year. And then we've added other little things, like we'll take hangers back to the local dry cleaner, eyeglasses we take to an optometrist, and then the rest of the stuff, really all we do from time to time is we re-merchandise it. And if there does get to be a surplus, once in a while there is a bit of a surplus, then we put it in a box and put it away, and our intention is to take it to Value Village. But the last time I had a surplus box, 3 months later, I took it out, put it back on the shelf, and it all went. Now, occasionally there are things that we do have to put in the garbage, unfortunately. But if they're good, as I say, we plan to box them up and send them off. But it's never happened. It's always, people always take things.
Gotcha. So what I'm hearing is that, because you guys were able to point out that, this stuff is ending up in the recycling, which could lead to, fees for contamination, everybody was on board to look for a solution. And by just making sure that you're thoughtful about this solution being something that wasn't in the way of your superintendent, and that you clearly outlined how your team would take responsibility for monitoring it, keeping the shelf nice and tidy, re-merchandising it as needed, they got, full support, sounds like.
Right. Yes.
Cool.
It's very popular. People love it, actually.
Yeah. Could you speak a bit about that? I know I've heard a few funny stories about
They do. Now, we did close it down in the beginning of the COVID situation, because we just were worried about people touching things. But so many people asked for it back that about 5 weeks ago or so, we set it back up again. Okay. And I know that one of my friends says her husband isn't allowed to take the recycling down because he always brings back something from the shelf, and they don't need any more things. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna see if we got any questions from the audience. So we got a question. Someone's wondering, does your building have city waste collection or private waste collection? And they're curious about, how reducing waste in your building saves your building money.
It's city waste collection, and you're billed by the cubic yard. And so we've reduced the number. We have compacted garbage, but we've reduced the number of compacted bins we put out. So we put out about one a week. Once in a while, we put out one extra. And okay. So we used to put out about 6 per month. So now we're down to a little more than 4 per month.
Gotcha. So that's about a 30% savings in costs, that sounds like. Mm-hmm. Do you know a dollar amount, Sally, by chance, about like how much?
No, I don't, because this is over 5 years, and the costs per cubic yard has changed over the 5 years. Mm-hmm. I could say that our costs have not gone up over 5 years, even though the cost of waste has gone up.
Wow.
In
Okay,
fact,
well
I'd say
that's
ours
really
is still
impressive.
down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because basically, the actual cost of running our city collection is much higher than what the city actually charges us. So we have a subsidy for our garbage collection. The city only charges for garbage collection, but to make sure that our finances as a city are sustainable, every single year they're reducing the subsidy little by little, which means all our waste cost goes up little by little every year, every single year. And so the fact that you guys have maintained the same cost for your waste for the last 5 years, that's really impressive. We have a question about whether your building collects organics. It
Yes, we
does,
do.
but I was
Yes, we
wondering if
do.
you could talk to when that started, how was that introduced, if you know.
Well, I don't know because it was here when I got here 5 years ago. It had already
Okay.
started. So I couldn't tell you about that.
Okay. Did you guys do any communication though as a green team to make sure that more of the waste is getting into the green bin that's supposed to go there, the organic
Oh,
waste?
yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. In newsletters and flyers and on the bulletin boards. And in fact, I even spoke at the board meeting last night and talked about our common problems. People put, well, they'll put paper towels and Kleenex in the recycling. Well, they belong in the green bin. Now, currently, the city is saying, right now, because of the COVID situation, put those in the garbage. But once that stops, we can again put those things in green bin
Right.
rather than in recycling. They don't belong in recycling at all.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm hearing there is that like a reoccurring theme from your building that I always hear is that you guys are really observant of what the superintendent is seeing in different bins, and any problem material that he notices or you guys notice, you develop some targeted messaging just around that for a little while.
Right. No, he is really a valuable source of information for us. It's amazing how much the superintendent knows about people in the building. And he can even tell us who's a really good recycler and who is not. I tell him, no, don't mention any names, please.
Yeah. Can you speak to Sally, like, once you've done messaging on a specific material, let's say black plastic, or, educating people that, diapers could go in the green bin on that specific material, once you've educated them on that for a while, how do you then celebrate improvement with your building? What are your tips for sharing improvements, a successful job with other residents?
Well, I guess through the newsletter, we tell them what a great job we've done and what we've been successful at. Usually we do that first before we hit them with all the things we need to improve on. It's
Gotcha.
always great to start out with something good.
Yeah.
And then too, when we do the lobby displays, we tell them what a great job they're doing. And last night at the board meeting, I thanked them on behalf of the members of the committee. I thanked everyone for their participation, especially the superintendent and the board for their help. But to the residents, if it worked for you, doing the right thing and eager to learn as they are, then we wouldn't be able to have such a good record in terms of our diversion.
Yeah, that's really important to acknowledge that this is a communal effort, and that's why these improvements are happening. You touched on the lobby displays that you guys have, and I've attended your summer barbecue 2 years ago. It was a lot of fun. The sorting game that you guys set up. Could you talk about the sorting game and other activities that you have at these lobby displays?
Sure. First of all, the city will provide, they have that, I think you showed it in one of your pictures, there's like a roulette game that you can borrow. So we borrowed that from time to time. They have huge banners. They probably stand 7 feet tall, but you can borrow, and they really look great behind your table, because it really points out to people what you're all about. But what the sorting activity, we basically took things, pie plates, cellophane, paper, and some tricky things too, some maybe a piece of black styrofoam and things like that. And we clean them. In fact, we have a box put away. You don't have to create this every time you do this. And it's such a popular activity. We've done it several times. So you have all these things, you put them in maybe 3 paper bags, and at the front you have a recycling bin, a garbage can, and an organic bin. And you ask people, just take one of these paper bags filled with these empty containers and try your hand at it. And usually when they're doing it, they're discussing it with you. Okay, well, this is a piece of styrofoam. I think this goes into recycling, and they'll be doing that. And then once in a while they're going in the wrong direction, we give them a little hint. But as I've said, the TIM cards are very popular, but even the praise for, oh yeah, you got most of it right, but this one, you need to remember this goes here, whatever. Yeah. And also at the same time, we also give tours. So we would ask people to come, if they want a tour of the building, or even a refresher, then they come down at a certain time during that lobby display, and we will take it around the building. And we usually start out in that garbage room, and that way you can really sort of inundate people with your philosophy, the building's philosophy on waste management. Go around the room, and this is what belongs here, and this is what belongs there, sort of thing. And then we go on and show them the party room and the workroom and the billiard, where the pool table is, and all that sort of thing, and the library.
And at the lobby displays, one of the things I noticed that you guys did, which is like a new idea for me, is that you reward all participation. So everyone gets a raffle ticket. I know at least you did that on one occasion. And then you do a draw for young people under a certain age, and you do another draw for adults. And everyone that participates in that sorting challenge, they get to learn in the process. They get to, hear some tips from you, and also get some encouragement and for their efforts. And that's how they get in the draw for TIM cards or other types of prizes.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna do one more question, or a few more. So Ron asks, what would you say have been your most successful educational activities in your community? So I know we've spoken on a few of them, but what would you say has been the most successful effort?
Well, I'd say that the lobby display is very successful, although having said that, you do only see a certain number of people. We try to set it up between, say, 4 and 6:30 p.m. because you're trying to catch people as they come from school and from work. So it's really popular with those people that do it. But to catch everyone, I guess, well, probably the newsletters and flyers that we do. That's a tough one, Ron, because then now I'm thinking about the bulletin board. And the bulletin board, we change it every couple of weeks. So it's new information, and we highlight the fact that people should, have a look when they're going in and see what they might catch a new hint on what to recycle. Yeah, so that it's just kind of tough to say which one has been the most successful.
Mm-hmm. The sense that I get from observing your building is that everything that you do kind of works together. It's all reinforcing and creating the sense that, these are the community's values. There's an entire team of people that are, putting in the effort to talk about this, and it just really makes it visible throughout the building and reinforces each other.
Right.
Follow-up question to Ron's that Christina has is, do you have any kind of digital communication channels that you use, like a website or social media groups?
But we have approached the board about getting a digital bulletin board. And so we are in the process of refurbishing our lobby and party room and halls. And they've promised us that we can have at least one
Wow.
We'd like one in each elevator, but it maybe end up being one by the mailboxes.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's really cool that your green team has
Yeah.
been like the impetus for your building getting these
Yes. Now
nice digital screens.
we don't have a Facebook page. A lot of buildings do, but that would be ideal. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we're at 4:43. So I just want to, formally thank everyone for joining us today. Sally and I will hang out for maybe another 5-10 minutes for any more questions that come through. But I just want to take some time, in case any of you have to go right at 7:45, to thank you for joining us today. Keep an eye out for those email updates you get from the project. We're going to do a lot more focused learning opportunities to help you complete the specific steps to move through the pathway in the coming months, and more peer learning events like this, spotlighting other leaders like Sally and the tactics that they use. So to help us make sure that these learning sessions are as valuable as possible, we asked if you could please fill out our feedback form. We're going to share the link in the chat, and that just really helps us know, what are you wanting to learn, and if we're delivering on providing those answers. So yeah, copy that link and put it into your browser and fill that out when you have some time tonight. And yeah, I'll hang on here for just a few more minutes to see if we got any more questions. But thank you. And thank you, Sally.
You're welcome.
Christine had a question. Does the green team monitor the recycling, or is it the super who does that?
I'm not sure what she means by monitoring. We do check it occasionally, and we know that the super does look in as well, and he takes things out that don't belong, and so do we. But I think we're at such a stage that really doesn't need a lot of monitoring, because we've done so much in terms of educating people. We still have the same common problems, and I think a lot of buildings are plagued by these, like the black plastic and styrofoam, and some people keep forgetting and tying up the bags when they throw them in, and they have to be open because they have to fall apart, the contents have to fall out at the recycling plant. But generally speaking, it doesn't require constant monitoring.
Mm-hmm. My sense from that question was that it sounds like you guys work as a team. Like the superintendent has to monitor the blue bins as part of their job, and he takes responsibility of, just if he sees contamination on the top, removing it with a little picker that he has. But the green team also, when you're in there, you take a look and you guys communicate with each other, right, about what you're seeing.
Right.
Yeah. So will all the answers to these questions be somewhere on the program website? Well, we're going to be posting this recording. So in about a week, we'll let you know when the recording gets posted as part of like an online resource. And we'll write up just a short summary of some of the main points that were covered. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. We'll call it there, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. Bye.